Okay, welcome back, everybody. I really hope you had a rich and engaging conversation during the networking sessions, whether you were remaining in one of them or hopping um, between several. And thank you as well for your energy and your questions and sharing your experiences. I was just hearing there from a colleague how engaging the session she had been was. We're now moving into our next segment, which is a practical and forward-looking workshop. And it's my pleasure to introduce Nana Ama Boa Amponsam, who is Assistant Director at the Education Collaborative. Nana Ama will be leading a workshop on how to build sustainable business models. In this session, we'll explore practical approaches to creating business models that are resilient, scalable, and built for long-term impact. So please do join me in welcoming Nana Ama Boa Amponsam, and I will hand over to her now, and I'll see you in a little while. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, evening, and maybe good morning to all of you actually joining today's session. Yeah, so we can do some introductions, a round of introductions. Thank you, Helen, for introducing me. As Helen rightly said, I'm Nana Ama Boamponsem. I'm based in Ghana, and the reason I'm in this session is because I actually I'm curious to know what is going on, globally, what, kind of sustainable business models are being developed globally. And so I'm very excited to be facilitating this session. I'd really want either, maybe we can take like the next 60 seconds. You can unmute yourself, introduce who you are, where you are joining from, or also please do feel free to type in the chat. And yeah, I guess a presentation can come on now. Yeah, so in the chat, I'd very much like to know who's joining us, from where, and what's that one word that's bringing you to this session. It can be that you're curious like me, that you're actually working on something, a business, and you have a challenge, which is why you're here. Maybe you have an idea, you're yet to start, a business, a sustainable business, you're frustrated, anything. Please do share in the chat. And also feel free to unmute your mic to introduce yourself, say where you're from. Okay. We don't have any. Well, we can
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yes. Okay, please go ahead. Yes, Meshach.
Yeah. It will be very unfortunate that nobody unmutes and talks. So let me just break. Let me move the needle and say that I'm Meshach Kawinzi. I'm joining from Kenya. It's actually night here. Some
Oh,
people, yeah, it's night. It's 7 p.m.
wow. Thank
Where
you for
I'm
joining me.
joining is it's out of frustrations. I've been in
Mm,
several businesses, and probably I
mhm,
adopt the wrong models, and that's why it doesn't
mhm,
work. That's why they are never sustainable. Although they look
mhm,
very beautiful, lucrative, but
mhm,
somehow on the way they kind of they hit the dead end. I
mhm,
think uh,
mhm.
frustrations have brought me here.
Right. Thank you,
Yeah.
Meshach. Thank you so much, Meshach, for joining. Audrey, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Nana. Hello, everyone. I'm Audrey. I live in Cameroon. I'm a Cameroonian, and I'm currently a Commonwealth scholar. I'm here, as you said, I'm here because I'm curious. I'm here because I manage a consultancy on corporate sustainability, and I'm really looking forward to hear from fellows on this session about sustainability in their businesses, because this is what I do. I help organizations and companies integrate sustainability in their daily operations. So Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yeah,
Hi.
it's right.
Yeah.
Whatever way I think it will be right.
Yes, I guess we can have Tankiso, Patrick, and Hazra, and then we'll go ahead with the session today.
Hello, everyone. Where I am is in the evening. My name is Tanjiswalo Chesa from Lesotho. I just joined the meeting just to serve my curiosity. I'm that kind of a person who like business, but sometimes business happen to stress me because I always want to take a risk, but sometimes it seems like I'm over investing or I do uncalculated risk in business. So I think I'm going to learn more in this session. Looking forward to hear from you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tankiso. Patrick, please go ahead, Hazra.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. My name is Patrick Michael Okeng from Uganda. I joined my brother from Kenya. It's already nighttime where we are, but we appreciate the global connectivity. Yeah, you indicated where I'm coming from. Definitely, it's Uganda, Kampala. Why am I here? Yeah, I serve with the Commonwealth Scholarships and Fellowships Alumni Association of Uganda. Actually, currently, I am serving as the president of the association. And definitely, there are a number of innovations that we're trying to come up with to support our communities, but also to increase the visibility of the association and also our funding body. But the ultimate is that these initiatives we're looking at those that can be sustained over the long while. And so, looking at the topic for this discussion, I think it stands out. The issue of sustainability is really critical. So, I am happy to not only learn but also unlearn whatever I carry to this platform, just to make sure that whatever innovations or initiatives we come up with are sustainable and can stand the test of time. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Patrick. We'll have Hazra and Marth, and we go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Hazra.
Yes. Hello, everyone. It is 12:11 p.m. where I'm at. I am from Antigua and Barbuda. I'm the cultural advisor in the Ministry of Education, Sports, and the Creative Industries. I was a 2010 Commonwealth Scholar, did a DPhil at the University of Oxford. I'm here because I'm curious about models that might be of benefit to our creatives here in Antigua and Barbuda. I want to assist them from moving beyond, oh, this is something I do on the side, this is a hobby, to this is something I do for a living. So I want to learn about, a sustainable business model that can be customizable for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazra. Marth.
Hi everyone, good evening. It's 5:11 here in Cameroon. My name is Martha Mbuli Lingong. I'm a Commonwealth scholar and a researcher at the University of Derby, but I'm currently in Cameroon for my fieldwork, where I am working at the intersection of media, language, and peace building. And my work focuses on helping organizations to adopt peace-oriented journalism and de-escalation in communication in conflict-affected multilingual contexts. And I'm really very happy to be here. And honestly, I'm here out of curiosity. Thank you very much, Nana.
Great. Thank you so much, Marth. And thank you everyone that spoke up and also that typed in the chats. I read them all. We don't have the time to acknowledge all of them. But thank you so much for joining. Especially for those who, it's already dark and you are really already engaging in the session. All right. So yes, with our introductions done, I will let you know why you're in this session today. And so ultimately, and thank you all for sharing the reason why you joined the session. Ultimately, by the end of, this workshop, this conversation, and this, I would say it's a conversation, it's a discussion. We'll work through examples of social enterprises and how they actually make their models work. We'll also use the business model canvas. I'm sure a number of you already are familiar with the business model canvas. So we'll work through that to unpack where value, money, and impact meet. Because in sustainable business models, we are not just looking at money, but we're also looking at impact and obviously value, because that's how we'll exchange the goods or the service. And then we'll notice how common challenges around costs, customers, and sustainability meet. And then finally, we'll give space to reflect on the models of your individual initiatives, or the ones you are directly engaged in, indirectly engaged in, or the ones you already have some familiarity with. Okay, so an activity. I'm glad that a few of us said, we're already running, some businesses, already engaged in some, business, social enterprise and whatnot. I want you to think of one social enterprise or fair trade organization. It can be yours, one that you are running yourself. It can be an idea, or one that you are just familiar with. Yeah. So I want you to think of one, just, let that come in. And while you are thinking of that one, I want you to think about the problem that this social enterprise or organization exists to solve, right? What's the problem that they want to solve? In other words, the impact they want to make. And so that's on the one hand. And then on the other hand, who or what is paying the bills? How are they running? How are they getting the money that they, operational, revenue, whatever. So that's the income. So this social enterprise that you thought about, I want you to think about it in two dimensions. What problem is it solving, and who is paying the bills? So maybe we'll take about two responses and we'll go on. So who will volunteer the social enterprise they thought about? You can give a snapshot of what they do, and then you can tell us what the problem they exist to solve, and who is paying the bills, who or what is paying the bills. Yes, Alma, please go ahead to share with us.
Hi everyone. So this isn't one I'm very familiar with, so I actually need to Google them and make sure they still exist. But my thought was just on this company called Global Access Diagnostics that works to sort of increase equity in diagnostics and diagnostic research. And essentially they're funded, so they're a research funded organization, but I think they do also sell some of their technologies that they've developed either through licensing or like actual sales. Yeah. That's the one I could think of, and it's sort of in my space.
Yeah, thank you, Alma. Any other, a second one? Any other?
I've actually been looking for a way to raise my hand, but I couldn't find.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I don't know if I can talk.
Yes, please do.
Yeah. So there's this more like digital awareness enterprise I know of in Nigeria. It's called Swift Hope Gate. So what they do basically is to teach young youth basically on digital skills, ICT, all the digital skills you can think of, social media marketing, how to build your online presence and everything around the digital space. So what they do is that they have an organization that have several meeting rooms, talking about now how they generate their incomes. You can book a session for an office, or working space. You can come and work there, share your ideas with people. And so more like a rent of the office space you pay, they have free Wi-Fi, working space, electricity, and everything. So they generate income in that aspect. They also offer training around digital skills. I think it could be, I've forgotten the frequency, but they do it occasionally. It could be monthly, it could be quarterly. I've forgotten the frequency, but they do that occasionally. And sometimes it can be free, which is how it becomes a social enterprise, and sometimes it is paid. So I think this is also another very good example of a social enterprise.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Wathanafa. I hope I pronounced that right. And yeah, so
Please, can I say something? Sorry.
hi. Okay. Am I audible? Sorry, I dropped off.
Yeah, we can hear you, Nanama.
Okay. All right, great. So thank you both for your examples, Wathanatha and Alma. And I'm very glad that you used the examples that you shared, because they are very similar to some of the cases that we'll be looking at. Sorry, next slide. Can we move to the next slide? Okay, great. Yeah. So like I shared in the beginning, we'll be using the business model canvas, which is a very popular tool, as our anchor, and we'll look at how social enterprises use this business model canvas, looking especially at the value propositions, customer segments, the revenue streams, the cost structure, which you already shared from the examples that you gave. Yes. Okay, great. So the business model canvas, very popular, like I said. It was developed by Alex Osterwalder and Yves Pigner. And this, so what we're using and what is here and what we're going to be talking about and discussing is an adapted version by Ingrid Beckett-Node. And so with this business model canvas for social enterprises, it was already shared that social enterprises exist to make impacts or do good and make money, right? And the canvas provides an opportunity to not just be a business, run as a business, but also identify what social impacts we want to be engaging in. And so what's the social impacts wants to achieve. And importantly, to see clearly how the two interact. And so how doing good interacts with being profitable, how they compete, sometimes, a lot of the time, actually, how they compete, what opportunities, are there, and what kinds of alignments, tensions, etc., come between them. And really understanding the business model canvas and how it can be used for social enterprises is very helpful for social enterprises, because you can't work if the business is not financially sustainable, right? If the organization or the institution cannot keep running, at some points, something will give. And so the reality for social enterprises is that you can't work if it's not sustainable. But at the same time, you cannot work if the social objectives are also not being realized in a certain way that the society has to benefit, or the enterprise has to be useful for the community or society. We'll just quickly go through them and what each segment kind of addresses. I want us to spend more time on the cases, because that will kind of unpack what we want to, or what we will learn, or what will, discover at the end of the session. And so the key partnerships, key activities, the value proposition, customer segments, customer relationships, customer segments, the key resources, the channels, the cost structure, and then the revenue streams. Now, what do each of these components or these segments stand for or represent? So, of course, the key partnerships are the network of suppliers and partners that make the enterprise work. Activities are the most important things that need to be done to make the enterprise work. The value proposition are the products and services that create value for specific customer segments. Who is receiving the outputs from the social enterprise, and what keeps them returning to that social enterprise. Customer relationships are the types of relationships an enterprise establishes with specific customer segments. And the customer segments themselves are the different groups of people or organizations sometimes that an enterprise aims to reach and serve ultimately. The key resources are the most important assets and resources, whether they are physical, intellectual, human, financial, that are required to make the enterprise work. The channels are how an enterprise communicates with and reaches its customer segments to deliver the value proposition. The cost structure are all the costs incurred to operate the enterprise. And revenue streams are the cash that an enterprise will generate from each of the customer segments. When you take away revenue to create earnings. All right, so like I said, this is our anchor for really unpacking what we're going to be discussing today. Before I go on, I want to just find out if there are any comments, questions, before we start moving on to the cases. Okay. All right, so let's do this first case. This first case is about fair trade agriculture. It's a case of an enterprise called Divine Chocolates. Now, Divine Chocolates is a fair trade chocolate company that's co-owned by smallholder cocoa farmers in Ghana through their cooperative Kuapa Cocoa. Farmers collectively own a significant stake in the company and have representation on the board. The company sources cocoa from its farmer owners, processes and sells the chocolate products primarily in the UK and European markets, and positions itself as an ethical alternative to mainstream chocolate brands. Divine Chocolate operates in a highly competitive global chocolate market, facing price pressures from large multinationals while also committing to fair prices, farmer empowerment, and democratic ownership. Now, the tension or the challenge with Divine Chocolates. Cocoa prices are volatile and largely set by global markets. Fair trade premiums and farmer ownership and add costs. Consumers say they value ethics, but still compare prices and taste. So what I want us to do is, sorry, please give me a second. Sorry, So the tension here we're discussing is one, like I said, cocoa prices are volatile and largely set by global markets. Fair trade premiums and farmer ownerships add costs. The consumers say that they value ethics, but still compare price and taste. I'm sure this is familiar to some of us here. Now, what I want us to be discussing, and it's open. Unfortunately, we don't have the breakout rooms to, put the different cases in rooms, but so we'll have an open forum, and thankfully we're not so many on here, so we can have a very interactive conversation around this. Okay. Sorry, someone using this, trying to, yeah, okay. So let's talk about the value proposition for Divine Chocolates. Can someone, sorry, the slides are not, I'm not able to operate them. I don't know if, yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about the value proposition for Divine Chocolates. What value is being offered to customers? And please do feel free to unmute your microphones, type in the chat. I actually prefer that the microphone is unmuted. So if you can, please do. But if you cannot, then you can go ahead to type in the chat. So just opening up for discussion, the value proposition that's being offered by Divine Chocolates, offered to consumers and then offered to farmers. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Fair trade chocolate at a decent price, yes. To farmers, definitely. And even to consumers, actually, for both, yeah. Anyone else? To consumers, quality products, ethical, it definitely. Customer gets the product utility, farmer gets the money. Awesome. To farmers, stability and income, yeah. Any more? Yeah, but ultimately you're all right. Yes. Ethical, unethical products, quality, the utility, farmers get the money, stability, that's all right. Now, who are the customer segments? Who's actually buying the chocolates and who benefits but doesn't directly pay for the chocolates?
Maybe something like people who work for the farmers and their families and their communities who like benefit from their economic
Yeah,
advancement or progress would
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
my thought.
Yeah, I agree. Yes. They definitely benefit, although they don't pay directly for the chocolate. The communities obviously progress. There's economic progress or economic development in those communities, the cocoa communities.
Yeah.
The government from taxes, yeah, middle traders, right? Alternate source of cocoa would be developed for cost reduction. Rizwan, can you explain that a little more?
Oh, hello.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's Rizwan from Pakistan. So I did my PhD long ago from University of Strathclyde in Pharmaceutical Sciences. So did a lot of work on product development, new product introductions.
Mm-hmm.
So this case is similar to that which I did earlier as well in products for local opportunity, development of products for local opportunity, like generic
Mm-hmm.
products for diabetes or psychiatry, etc. Now,
Okay.
here, what I want to say that as a equitable business, as the quality of the product is good and the chocolate is acceptable, so alternate development of cocoa means if the cocoa from another source to be developed, stability, formulation studies to be carried out, stability means that the new source should give the same taste. It should be stable at high temperatures, transportation, etc., etc., and it should give the same taste. So that actually reduces the cost by keeping the value maintained in the eye of the customer.
Right. Rizwan, thank you. I think you are seeing into the future because we'll come to the point that you just made actually. Thank you for sharing more on that. Yes, so definitely the shipping courier companies, they benefits, but don't pay directly. Okay, Google Office sources, Divine for their employees. Okay, yes, that's also right. Now, what are the revenue streams for Divine Cocoa? Divine Chocolate, sorry. So where's their money primarily coming from? And is fair trade itself generating revenue or just enabling access? So access for the cocoa farmers and their products. One, where's their money coming from? And is fair trade. Two, is fair trade itself generating revenue or just enabling access? At least from the context of the case that we've read here.
Well, I'm still unmuted, so I'll just go. I think that it's interesting because fair trade could literally be generating revenue in the case where companies would only source fair trade chocolate, and so they wouldn't otherwise buy it. But for a lot of consumers who just want to buy chocolate, the fair trade itself might not be the reason that they choose it. So I guess my thought is that the money would primarily come from just people buying chocolate.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Any others? Any other thoughts on where the money is coming from and fair trade itself generating revenue? Okay, well, let's move to the next. On the cost structure for Divine Chocolates. Okay, yeah. Fair trade in my part of the world means that you better be prepared to part with a fair amount of your money for the product being sold. So no enabling access for that. That's good. Context is really important. Thank you, Hazra, for bringing that nuance. Yeah. Yeah, so on the cost structure for Divine Chocolates, what costs exist because this is a fair trade model, and which of these costs would not be there in a conventional chocolate company? Because I think that we established early on that there are sometimes tensions, right? And sometimes the impact and revenue, would clash, and they need to be aligned for impact to happen and for revenue to also be seen. Okay, money gotten from importers and local consumers. Okay, greater farmer profit margins. Okay. Shamba and Maham, can you unmute and share a bit more on your thoughts on the cost structure?
Yes, actually, the cost structure can be built in by various ways. Very first thing is definitely all the business development plans that should start from there, because the formulation or that is already established because the customers like that. The customers like its taste. It resembles the innovators, or it resembles the chocolate of multinationals. So that must be kept constant. But by improving the productivity in the manufacturing operations, by building in like operational excellence techniques, by bringing 5S, that is by sustaining, sorting, cleaning, better arrangement of the materials, better flow of the processes, material flow, people flow. So if that improves a lot the processes, and that decreases the cost. I mean, there are clear-cut models where the cost has decreased by improving the manufacturing processes. because
Mm-hmm.
if the cost is decreased, so the margin in the profitability increases. So when margin increases, so more that should go into the research, better productivity, more products, and more customer will be developed.
Right. Thank you, Rizwan, for sharing on the cost structure. Okay. So we'll move to the next case, but just kind of I want you to, we're building on certain things. And so what I want you to do is just keep in mind all of these discussions that we're having around the value proposition, the customer segments, the revenue streams, and then the cost structure. So yeah, on the second case, on education. Now, this case is on Bridge International Academies. Maybe those of you in Uganda, in Kenya, you'll be familiar with this. In India as well, you'll be familiar with Bridge International Academies. Now, Bridge International Academies provides low-cost primary education to families in low-income communities. Schools operates on a standardized model using centralized curriculum design, scripted lessons delivered via tablets, and tightly managed operations. Parents pay low daily or monthly fees. The model aims to deliver consistent quality education at scale while remaining affordable for households earning irregular incomes. Bridge has expanded rapidly across several countries, but has faced criticism around regulation, pedagogy, and equity, and has also been praised for access and operational disciplines. So now the tension here, low fees must cover operational costs. 2, quality, affordability, and scale pull in opposing directions. And 3, governments, parents, and donors value different outcomes. I'm sure this is also a very familiar, maybe not the exact organization, but a familiar context or a familiar challenge. All right. So now let's again unpack. For Bridge International Academies, what is a value proposition? What problem is Bridge solving for parents? And what is the value that Bridge is providing? Please unmute your microphones to share, or feel free to also type in the chats.
Yeah, if I may come in just briefly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would even actually start from down going up. What is the value Bridge is providing? Two key things that come out. One is providing quality education, but at low cost. In other words, quality education, but also making sure that that quality education is affordable. And so, what
Right.
is the
Yeah.
problem? The problem is actually tied to those two. That one, education is inaccessible because of the high prices or cost that is levied on the parents. But on the other hand, uh, is that the quality of this education is actually also wanting. And so it's a two-pronged approach that we
Yeah.
provide for you quality education,
Mm-hmm.
but at low cost. In other words, it is accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I feel.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Patrick. Any other? Maybe one more, and then we move to the customer segments. Any other on the problem Bridge is solving for parents and the value Bridge is providing? Even for let's say for the government, besides maybe the immediate community or the parents, okay, improving access and reducing, okay, the out of school situation, right? Or out of school, yeah, OOC, I guess that's what you're saying. Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you, Maham. Now on customer segments, who is the primary customer and who decides the success of Bridges model? Any thoughts on who the primary customer for Bridge Academies is and who decides if their model succeeds. Okay, the parents and the kids are customers, all right. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Yeah, okay. The kids decide their success. Okay, okay. All parties involved will decide the success. Yeah, I guess it depends on what success means and for who. Because success can mean the quality of education, success for the kids, success can mean, I mean, for the government, it can mean, how many children are enrolled and how many, young people are not out of school as a result of their work. For donors, it can mean maybe the cost to educate one child. And yeah, they show it by the progress. Okay, great. Okay.
The parents also can decide that the model is working successfully based on the improving behavior of the children, their learning capability improvements,
Yeah, yeah,
their day-to-day problem-solving activities,
yeah,
participation in various extracurricular activities. If that is improving, so parents can decide as well, along with
yeah,
teachers.
yeah,
Teachers can also predict that, okay, the system is working fine.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So depending on what success means, different people can define what Bridges success is. On the revenue streams, how sensitive is the model to non-payments? At least based on what has been shared in this case. What are your thoughts on how sensitive Bridge Academy's model is to non-payment of, school fees? Assuming that, which is actually, the case in a lot of low fee and low cost private schools, there's a high rate of non-payment of fees.
Nana,
Yeah.
I mean, that came out to me as indeed a sensitive area because uh, they, 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 they count on parents making these payments to run the daily or monthly costs. That means without parents committing, there's a big challenge at hand. They are unable to actually provide what they have promised.
Okay. Yeah. 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 That's true. Maham, please share.
Yeah, so I'm not aware of what exactly is their model. However, based on the principles or at least the value proposition they claim to have, they should be able to account they should be able to accommodate children who are unable to pay to improve access. If their target is at the end of the day to improve access, then by principle um, they should be able to um, bear costs of some children who are unable to pay.
So is this assuming that they are making extra, that profits is covering those children? Is that what you mean? Or do you mean the principle of it, the fact that they are trying to improve access?
Yeah, just based on the value proposition.
Right. Okay. Okay. All right.
And
Thank you, Maham.
also to run the school satisfactorily, because definitely the revenue is important. So the donors always come in front, I mean, in these type of situations. So donations may help to running of these type of schools and support the students of that school. Similarly, the other some charitable organizations sometimes they donate. So because if this school is working satisfactorily, if the quality of education is good, so then generally these systems run quietly, through these charities as well, along with the payment from some payment from the parents.
Yeah. Okay. On the cost structure as well, what costs exist because the target population is a low-income population? So what's at least from the business model canvas, we had said that the costs is all the costs incurred to operate the enterprise. Whether it's financial costs, capital, physical, intellectual. Yeah. What are some of where is the disconnect because the target population is low income, and what concessions does Bridge Academies have to make due to the target population?
I think this is sort of to my previous point, but if the whole, and I've maybe misunderstood the value proposition, but if their whole point was that everything is like via app and it's a scripted class and so on, the difference between one child and 100 children should be pretty similar. So they must have like a threshold of like, we can afford to do this if we have 100 children, and then after that it's kind of profit. And so I guess like the costs exist in the sense that like you will have issues of non-payment and people who can't always pay or can't pay consistently. So you might have late payment costs and things like that because of who you're trying to serve.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Alma. Any others? Hiring fundraising managers, right? Okay, yeah. Since very small amounts of money is coming in from parents or students, almost all the cost is to be borne by the organization's funders. Okay. Having some fundraising ventures. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your thoughts on this case as well. And again, like I said, let's hold the thoughts. Let's hold all the thinking that we're doing around these cases. Now, the final case, and then we'll bring this all together, is on green energy. And I'm sure some of you will again be familiar with the context on this as well. Solar Sister is a case, and the context is Solar Sister is a social enterprise that distributes clean energy products such as solar lamps and clean cook stoves through a network of women entrepreneurs in rural and peri-urban communities. Now, instead of a centralized retail model, Solar Sister trains, equips, and supports women to become last mile distributors. The model aims to address energy access, women's economic empowerment, and climate outcomes simultaneously. The products are sold at prices intended to be affordable, but not subsidized to the point of undermining sustainability. Now, the tension here is that rural last mile distribution is expensive. Entrepreneur support and training costs are significant, and environmental impact does not automatically translate into revenue. All right, so now we're again unpacking what this means for the value proposition, the customer segments, the revenue, and cost structure. Yeah, so on the value proposition, what value is created or is being created for the households, and what value is being created for the women entrepreneurs? Any thoughts, Louis?
I'm sorry, could we just go back to that slide for 2 minutes so I can have a
Okay.
reread, please?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
went
yeah,
by
sure.
really quickly. Thank
Yeah, sure, sure.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, so on the value, what value is being created by solar sisters for households? And then what value is being created for the women entrepreneurs? Any thoughts?
For households, the value is, I mean, they are getting solar energy, so the cookers or the stoves, so they run on that at some low cost without creating any, you can say, carbon dioxide, or it's green energy, because there will be little waste uh, from that burning of the other, like wood or coal or some electricity, water electricity. So instead of that, that the solar or green energy can cater the households by stoves or by providing some lights in the home or running the fans.
Okay, yeah. Meshach, thank you, Rizwan.
Yeah, from where I sit, I see decreased morbidity as a result of pulmonary complications. So hospital
Right.
costs that come with
Mhm.
smoke are really brought down.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yes, that's true. Thank you, Meshach. So it's even beyond economic value. This is including health benefits, right, for the households. Yeah, thank you.
It's still on the economic part, because the money going for, I mean, the money that must have maybe expended to buy
Yeah, yeah.
medication,
Mm-hmm.
it goes to something
Would be
else.
used for
Still
something
economic.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. So I think someone shared something similar. The monies would have been used for energy that can be applied somewhere. Less use of charcoal, firewood, promoting green energy. The women entrepreneurs are empowered. Great. Okay. All right. Now on the customer segments, who's paying for the products and who's paying for the system that's making the delivery possible? The last mile delivery. Any thoughts on who's paying for the products and also who's paying? Meshach, is it the standing hand or are you speaking?
Sorry, it was standing, but definitely the person that pays is the last mile customer, the one that buys to use the cook stove or the lamp.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Surely the like women entrepreneurs who are doing the last mile delivery to some extent are paying for that and are carrying some of that cost in exchange for like the training they got and the opportunity to get some kind of profit.
Okay. Any other thoughts before we move to the revenue streams? Okay. All right. So on the revenue streams, is product sales revenue sufficient on its own, at least based on the context that has been shared here? Is product sales revenue sufficient on its own? And where does grants or catalytic funding fit? Does it even fit? And why? Any thoughts on if the product sales revenue alone is sufficient, to keep operating, for solar systems to keep operating, in the way that they are? And is there any place for grants or catalytic funding?
Yeah. Can I go?
Yes, please do, Misha.
Yeah. Of course, now we are talking of the carbon credits. Although here in my context, Kenya, it is tied to some political, it must be catapulted politically. For instance, we are talking of a green energy, the bioethanol, the cocoa industry, which was denied the licenses to, keep, giving affordable bioethanol energy to people living in the informal settlements because they were denied the access to the carbon credit schemes. So from where I say the funding, the catalytic funding can come from the carbon schemes.
Okay.
For
Okay.
this context.
Right. Right. Thank you, Meshach. Any other thoughts on where the product sales, on if product sales revenue is sufficient on its own, and then also the place of grants or catalytic funding? Maybe one more on the revenue streams before we move ahead.
Nana,
Yeah.
I was surely holding my breath on this one. I think Meshup was trying to paint a very nice picture given the context of my neighboring country, Kenya. But my feeling, of course, when you hesitated on moving to the next, I felt I needed to say something. Is product sales revenue sufficient? Now, that is an interesting question because sufficient to who and for what purpose? But definitely, I could appreciate your context why that revenue may not necessarily be, sufficient, especially if this activity is to be scaled, and so there might be need for another door or another opportunity for funding, and that is where now the issues of grant and catalytic funding would now need to come in, to kind of subsidize on the cost of production, but at the same time be able to expand or scale the activity. I think Meshach paints the picture on where that funding is supposed to come from. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you. And on the cost structure, what costs are tied to impact delivery rather than product delivery? And which costs increase as the impact deepens, based on the model that Solar Sister is using? I hope we're quiet because we're thinking, what are the costs that are tied and how are the two balancing against each other? Any thoughts? Any thoughts on what kinds of costs will be tied to Solar Sisters delivering impacts rather than delivering their products?
I mean, I'm hesitant to speak because I think I'm quite stupid in this, but product delivery being as in like actually delivering the stoves. So I guess impact delivery is kind of the choice of products and the choice being very focused on sustainability and what's the word? Carbon neutral options would be rather more expensive, and then that technology, at least initially, is quite expensive, and so that cost can get more and more expensive if you want, like, I guess, the fanciest version. But I might be completely off base there.
Okay. Thank you, Alma.
I'm not sure whether I'm thinking straight. Do you mean the impact of delivery in terms of the population reached by the product? Or do you mean the cost impact, the impact as a result of the money used?
So what costs are, so maybe let me rephrase, what costs are tied to, so there's Solar Sisters engages women entrepreneurs, right? So what costs are tied to them getting the women entrepreneurs empowered, right? Rather than delivering on the products. And I don't know if it makes sense. So the impact is the training of the women entrepreneurs, the whole, I guess, spectrum around getting women entrepreneurs or females economically empowered or economically developed, right? So that's on the one hand. And then the product delivery is on the clean stoves themselves, right? So what are the trade-offs between that's the impacts and the products? Is it clearer?
No.
Okay, so I can give an example of the costs that are tied to. So there's a training, right? The trainings of the women entrepreneurs. If they were not engaging women entrepreneurs, they would not have to incur that additional cost. If their sole motive was just, selling on the stoves without engaging the women entrepreneurs. So that's an example of a cost that can be tied to not the products, but the delivering of the impacts, right? And obviously the recruiting, scouting, subsidizing for the women entrepreneurs to get them to sell for the last mile, the subsidy even on the clean stores for the last mile, rather than the product. I mean, so those are even the subsidy is a cost, right? Than the product delivery, where if they were not in impacts, then they would be selling at true costs, even with like marginal revenues or marginal returns for the products. I hope it kind of makes sense for you. And I
So
guess it
would
ties to the
something,
second part of it. Go ahead.
sorry, so I was just wondering, would something like operational inefficiencies on the part of the women and entrepreneurs, would that be a
Yes,
cost tied to
yes,
impact
that will
delivery?
be exactly. That will actually be a negative cost on product delivery, right? Because they are getting quote unquote unskilled people to sell their products. Whereas if they were not in impact, then they would, engage skilled labor, for lack of a better word. I hope it's clearer. Does it make sense? So here we're really, I guess it's balancing impacts and products and seeing that, there are decisions, there are times where, the two are not, are opposing, and, decisions need to be made on what the goal is, impact versus, revenue. And this will also apply to the cost that will increase as impact deepens, because the more women entrepreneurs you're engaging, that means the higher your cost of trainings, the higher your costs, delivering to the last mile, all of those different costs will, increase substantially as a result of the scaling of the enterprise. Yes, transportation, storage facilities, yeah, very much. All right, great. So very quickly, we're running out of time here, but thank you so much for your reflections on the different cases. And so we'll just tie all these together really quickly. Yeah. So across all three cases, what were some of the patterns that we noticed? Maybe I'll take two and then we just run through quickly. Any thoughts on some of the patterns that we noticed across the different cases?
Sure, I'll go. I think it was interesting to think of the perspective that more than just the customer is benefiting, which I guess is sort of the feature of social enterprise, is that there's someone benefiting that's not just the person buying the product or like benefiting from that business existing, which is really interesting. And also sort of the tensions that are sort of parallel in a lot of places, that there are choices that you have to make if you want to be a social enterprise that will increase your costs. And I guess you have to figure out if you can handle that in your business model.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you're not going to be doing any social good. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Thank you,
general pattern is that in all the cases, as these are marketing or entrepreneurial type of cases, so there should be enhancing value in the eye of the customer, and definitely all the revenues and costs that has to be controlled, so that there should be when it is scaling up, or when for enhancing the education, better systems of education, or better supply of cocoa, or better supply of solar. So the revenue and the cost, that should be balanced, and the operational efficiencies should be improved.
Right. Yeah. Great. So you actually
Yeah.
respond to, oh, sorry.
Sorry, Nana.
Yeah, please go ahead. I
Yeah,
think I lost
I
what you said.
noted this. I noted desperation across the three cases, especially on the operational efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
These cases are almost, if let me just give a case for education. At what point can we say we have enough students? That's one who are able, to sustain the running of the school. For the other case, at what point do we say we have enough stuffs sold so that we can, say we are sustainable? So for the three cases, what I've noted is just frustration. I've noted that there can never be sustainability. Even if we talk of resilience, sustainability is zero unless we have a funder or a catalytic funding, let me call it.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. There's another comment on socioeconomic backgrounds of direct beneficiaries is a sensitive area and likely to play a role in the level of success across all cases. Yeah. Yeah, that's also true. Sorry, can we have the slide back up? Oh, okay. I guess that's the cue that we have run out of our time. But thank you so much. I think that you actually addressed some of the things that I was going to talk about, that impacts and costs. Sometimes there are tensions around impact and costs. And so sometimes when your impact is increasing, that'll also mean that your costs are increasing, and not necessarily that your costs will reduce. And also that customers and beneficiaries are not the same. And so it's very, very critical to identify who the paying customers are and who benefits from them. And I guess that's very, very critical, Meshach, to what you said around catalytic funding. You need to deliver value to both customers and the beneficiaries, right? Sometimes, and a lot of the time, and I think it's even here, that the socioeconomic backgrounds of direct beneficiaries is a sensitive area, right? And so if socioeconomic backgrounds for beneficiaries, it does not allow them to fully pay for the products, there needs to be value for a paying customer, right? And that paying customer can look like a donor. That paying customer, in some cases, actually can look like the government, right? Because there are some social enterprises that grow to the extent of working with districts, government agencies, etc. So there needs to be a value for beneficiaries and customers. And again, around value, around the points of value, there's also value which attracts attention, but not necessarily revenue, right? And so there also has to be a clear, I guess, clear distinction and clear work and efforts towards value that is publicity and value that actually, generates revenue. And of course, like we said, skill impacts sometimes there's tensions around those. So very, very quickly in 1 minute, I want you to think again back to the very first activity on the organization or the institution that you were familiar with. And I want you to think of that institution, the value they are providing, their customers, their customer segments versus beneficiaries, the revenue sources, and then the costs. Yeah, well, we're going to pull that back together, but again, we've run out of time. But it's been so great. It's been a very, very interactive conversation. Thank you so much for making my facilitation work so easy. We literally just breezed through. Yeah, thank you all, particularly for those who are already gearing towards the nights. Over to you, Helen.
Thanks so much, Nana, really for leading a very interesting, but as you say, really practical and engaging workshop. And for the audience as well for engaging so actively. I mean, it is really late for some of you, so to be actively engaging so much is really commendable. I particularly enjoyed hearing some of your introductions as well at the beginning of the workshop, so I hope you all enjoyed it. To close today's programme, and we won't keep you very much longer because I know it is late, I'm pleased to invite Katrina McCarthy, my colleague from the British Council, Global Head of Student Mobility and Internationalisation of UK Education. And she's just going to deliver some final remarks for us this evening. So Katrina, over to you if you're there. I think Katrina's just joining us. Perhaps she's having some trouble with her camera or mic. Can be the case at these online events, unfortunately. I'll give her a moment. Okay, perhaps Katrina's having some trouble. I won't keep you all for very much longer, but I just wanted to share some highlights, I suppose, of the day. And there's Katrina there. Are you able to speak, Katrina?
Can I check if you can hear
Yes,
me?
perfect. I can hear you.
Wonderful.
Katrina's
Thank
with
you.
us now. Thanks. I'll
Wonderful.
hand over to you, Katrina.
Thank you. So we just had a bit of a challenge in handing over controls for unmuting, and Helen, well done on managing some challenging filling conversation there. I know that it's a tense moment when all of this happens, but look, it gives me real pleasure to be able to join you today to provide a few words of reflection, as well as some comments on today's programme as a whole. And I suppose as we come to the close of day one and Interchange26, I really wanted to begin by saying a very sincere thank you to our scholars and to our alumni, and to all of our speakers and moderators, and to the very many colleagues behind the scene who helped make today not only possible, but I think genuinely impactful. During our opening plenary this morning, we welcomed over 100 live participants, with many, many more joining sessions throughout the day. And the level of engagement and discussion throughout has really brought our programme content to life. We were delighted to hear first thing today from Minister Elmore, whose opening words served to reinforce the importance of global partnerships, of people-to-people connections, and of longer-term relationships in helping us all to address shared challenges. And we also heard from Professor Robin Mason, whose always insightful reflections on the conference theme and on the vital role of our scholars and alumni really helped to set the tone for the days ahead and remind us very much of the responsibility that sits alongside opportunities in international education. There were many inspiring and impactful moments from today's programme, not all of which I would be able to capture with the praise and insight that they deserve. But I know that our keynote speaker and guest alumnus Enfor and his reflections on leadership, community and responsibility give us a really powerful and very human starting point to the programme today. I also want to thank both Manisha and Sarah for sharing such a thoughtful and well-grounded panel session on knowledge without borders, highlighting very clearly that inclusion in knowledge exchange doesn't happen by accident. It has to be intentionally designed and funded and supported in order to be sustained. I do want to say that throughout the day, so many of our discussions and sessions were really enriched by the very active question and answer sessions we had, with participants sharing practical examples of how they were overcoming barriers. And I think those experiences and insights were hugely important. And I also know that this same energy was equally evident during our networking sessions on youth leadership, on global to local innovation, and on alumni networks as engines of community change. I think if I were to reflect on this first day, I would say that for me, there were three emerging and overriding themes. First, equity as a very practical action, not just as a principle or an ideal. And across today's conversations, we heard repeatedly that equity only becomes meaningful when it's reflected in who is funded, who is listened to, and who is represented in decision making, and ultimately in who benefits from the outcomes. Because equity shows up in governance structures and partnership models, in decisions and designs, and that helps access to opportunity. Secondly, I think I would reflect on the importance of research translating into real world impact. We heard really strong examples of how evidence, innovation, and academic insight can directly shape communities, services, and livelihoods. But we also heard very honestly about the barriers, whether those are institutional incentives, funding cycles, capacity gaps, or indeed infrastructure constraints. And so I think the message here was clear that research only becomes truly powerful when it is co-created, when it's openly shared, and when it is built around the needs of the people that it is intended to serve. And thirdly, of course, we heard today about the role of alumni networks as drivers of innovation and community change. And throughout the day, alumni and scholars were not just described simply as beneficiaries of programmes, but as active leaders, as connectors, and as change makers in their own contexts and in those that we share. We saw how alumni networks mobilise skills, credibility and trust in ways that sometimes formal institutions alone cannot. It helps create bridges between countries, between sectors, and importantly, between ideas and action. And I think as we close off on day one, I think what is really encouraging is how strongly these themes all intersect. Equity in action, research to impact, and alumni-led networks all point towards a shared ambition to move from individual programmes and projects towards ecosystems and collaboration and change. As Professor Robin Mason reminded us earlier today, we want to encourage everyone to take every opportunity over the coming days to build your networks, to strengthen your connections, and to learn from one another. And I think these relationships are a really important part of the Commonwealth alumni community and a really important driver of long-term impact. And so looking ahead to day two, I would encourage you to stay engaged and curious, because tomorrow we'll build on the excellent foundations of today. And I think tomorrow we look forward to another very full and enriching programme. And so as we draw to a close, I simply want to encourage everyone to use this programme, not just as a space for inspiration, but as a space for connection, more of which we will take on board tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Katrina, and thank you to all of you for all of your participation today. I'm just here to say thank you, and please, before we wrap up, do take a moment to complete the survey if you would. You can scan the code there that's in front of you, the QR code, or we'll be putting the link there in the chat. I just see it's come through as well. Whichever is easiest for you, we'd really appreciate it so we can make sure these types of events are as beneficial for you as possible. That's it from us. Thank you ever so much. And remember, tomorrow, the sessions are there in front of you. Will be starting again at 2 p.m. UK time. So we look very much forward to seeing you all there. Have a good night.